So if you take yeast, right, and put them in a jar, give them their energy source, which is sugar, what they'll do is gobble up that energy as quickly as they can, reproduce wildly out of control, and then wipe themselves out in their own waste products. And over the last 30 or 40 years or so that we've known about climate change, and then over the last 15 years of this COP process, our response has been entirely like yeast. There is nothing we have done that is any different to what yeast would have done. In other words, our emissions have always been going up and up and up and up. The Kyoto Protocol, ironically, at the moment of the Kyoto Protocol, our emissions actually went a little extra spurt. So we haven't even managed to level off our emissions so far. This is the new deal that's come out, the so-called deal, the accord, the noted accord. And as you can see, these are the emissions cuts that the countries have agreed to. Blankety fucking blank. Apparently they're going to be telling us in February instead of doing it right now. So this was the scene of the most important meeting in human history. Everybody's gone home now, as you can see. So how has this particular political system responded to the greatest threat that humanity has ever faced? Answer, very, very badly. So the question immediately becomes, you know, do we stick with this political system or do we try and think of something else? But for the last 3 or 4 days of this meeting, I have been thinking that basically only revolution at this stage would do. You know, we've got to chuck out the whole system. But firstly, we haven't got really much time to do that. And secondly, over this last night, seeing all of the really great politicians staying up all night, working together with the really good scientists, it makes me think that perhaps it's wrong. We don't want revolution. What we want to do is we want to join forces, the civil society, the best politicians, the best scientists, and between us, come up with a new deal very, very quickly, I may hasten to add, that actually can do something and hopefully save the climate. I'm of the MTV generation, 70s, who've basically been told our whole lives by 10 million adverts bombarding us every day that the point of our existence is to go shopping, play computer games, and then die. And I actually find it quite inspiring. Even though this is a desperate situation, I find it quite inspiring and almost a bit of a relief that it turns out that our generation has something extremely important to do, because every generation that came before us didn't know about climate change, and every generation that follows, it'll be too late for them to do anything. So it does come down to us. And you know, where other generations did manage to overturn apartheid or end slavery or whatever it is, there's no question what it is that our generation has to do, what our generation will be remembered for. And there's nothing intrinsically more stupid or more useless about our generation. The only question that remains is whether we're going to give it. So this is what I reckon we should do. We've basically got a year until the COP meets again. COP16 is going to be in Mexico next November or December. I'm not sure what it is. And what I think we need to do is that civil society and the good politicians in whichever country need to come together and actually make some emissions cuts. No more talk, no more promises, no more targets. We need to get some cuts done in the rich countries. So say, for example, in the UK, our 10-10 campaign asked people to commit to cut their emissions 10% next year. So it's actually bang on. And already we've got 50,000 people doing it, schools, hospitals, football clubs, and 100 local councils, and the Prime Minister and all the Cabinet, anyway. So basically, if all of those people could come together and cut between them, say, 2% of the UK's emissions, plus then if the government would introduce policies which would quickly cut emissions 5%, 6%, you know, which are not those hard. Those policies do exist. It could happen. Then I think we could come to the next COP, COP16, with, say, a 10% cut, UK cut, actually already done. And, you know, call me naive and optimistic, but I personally feel that could really make a huge difference. Not just blaming each other, not just saying, you know, it's his fault, it's China's fault, it's India's fault, but just saying, look, we've started, it was easy, it was, you know, everybody's happier, everybody's healthier, and it's, of course, everybody who makes the cuts is also better off. I just feel that it might just swing things.